By 2050, the world's population could approach 10 billion. And around 60% more food could be needed to feed everyone.
The environmental impacts of the food system are daunting. It's responsible for about a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions. It uses about 70% of all freshwater resources, and it occupies about 40% of the Earth's land surface. Food-related emissions could increase to 50% by 2050 and fill up the total emissions budget that we have in order to avoid dangerous levels of climate change.
Interest in vegan food has been booming across the rich world. A major study has put the diet to the test, analysing an imagined scenario in which the world goes vegan by 2050.
If everybody went vegan by 2050, we estimated that the food-related greenhouse gas emissions could be reduced by 3/4.
Cows are the biggest emission contributors. Bugs in their digestive system produce methane, and deforestation for their pasture releases carbon dioxide. These gases warm the planet. If cows were a country, they'd be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter.
I'm a 9th-generation farmer in this area. I grew up on a farm with cows and fattening bulls.
Jaap Korteweg comes from a long line of farmers in the Netherlands.
My goal is to be the biggest butcher in the world. We do it for meat lovers, but if you don't like meat, don't buy our products.
But he's now a butcher with a difference.
I'm the vegetarian butcher. We are hooked on the taste of meat. So the only way to change it is to develop products with the same experience without an animal. We can produce beef as big as a front door with the right texture of real beef. The equipment we used in our plant-based plant is the same as in a meat factory. The only difference is there was no blood on the floor.
Jaap made the switch to plant-based meat 11 years ago. He now ships to 17 countries with annual sales of 20 million euros.
The ingredients we use are different. We use soy, we use lupin, we use wheat, we use peas. We look to the meat product we want to copy and look for the right ingredients to get the same experience.
Farmed animals are land hungry. Over 80% of the world's farmland is used for animal production, but it produces only 18% of the world's calories.
You need to feed a cow about 10 kilograms of mostly grains for it to grow by 1 kilogram. For pigs, that's about 6 kilograms, and for chicken, 3 to 4 kilograms. So a lot of food is wasted as feed for animals that we would then eat.
Growing animal feed means more land per calorie of food is needed to produce beef than broccoli.
2/3 of all agricultural land is used as pastures. And if you saved all those pastures, if people went vegan, then that would be the size of the continent of Africa that would be freed.
And a well-balanced vegan diet, more varied with less calories, could save lives.
If the world went vegan in 2050, we estimated that premature mortality and also all-cause mortality could be reduced by about 20%.
Which could make the global economy healthier too.
We know how much money is used to treat certain diseases that are associated with diets. Coronary heart disease, or stroke, cancer, and diabetes. Then we get to an estimate about $1 trillion in 2050 that could be saved. That would be about 3% of all global healthcare-related costs.
But global meat consumption is growing around the world, by almost 3% a year since 1960.
Nobody liked the way we treat animals in factory farms. Nobody liked the situation that is not good for our health, not good for the environment, but we all like meat very much.
While Jaap's firm threatens meat farmers, meat companies and butchers are customers and partners.
Meat companies don't own the farmers, so it's easy to change from chickens or pigs to plant-based meat. If the consumers want it and the market want it, they're happy to change.
Affordable and accessible alternatives could yet see the rich world hit peak meat and head down the other side.
If we look at past trends, it's probably unlikely to assume that the world would really go vegan by 2050. We found that without large-scale dietary changes towards more plant-based diets, we would have a very slim chance of staying below dangerous levels of climate change.
But even moving towards a plant-based diet could help.
According to our estimates, a predominantly plant-based diet could get us probably 3/4 of the way. Governments can play a crucial role by setting the right dietary guidelines. They can adopt procurement policies where it's clear that the standard foods that are ordered are plant-based, healthy and sustainable.
For the vegetarian butcher, plant-based meat is just the next step in a long history of developments in the farming world.
It's always changing in the agricultural world. 100 years ago, there were millions of draft horses to transport, to plow. Now they are threatened with extinction because we don't need workhorses anymore. In the future, we will use machines to produce our meat, and the slaughter animals will be threatened with extinction too. And we only had room for wild chicken and wild pigs. And that's the future, I hope.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Speak Your Mind, where you who are watching us from any part of the world, here in Canada, in Toronto, or wherever it is that our screen is being received, you can be able to sound off, speak those thoughts that you have right there. And the question that we're asking everybody today, yes, it is about a diet that has to be do with being a carnivore or an omnivorous, I think I'm pronouncing it right, or a plant-based diet. Right away, Mrs. Audrey, I'll let everybody know, yes, I am not doing a plant-based diet. I do like the selection of meats, chickens, and everything, but this person can give us a call right now, 877-785-8700, or they can send us a message on WhatsApp, 437-233-9815, where, Mrs. Audrey, you're going to be reading their comments, we're going to be answering their phone calls, and they're going to be able to speak their mind.
Correct, Pastor, because like the show is Speak Your Mind, we want to hear from you. We want to see what your thoughts are on this subject. If you yourself have a personal experience that want to share, or you think on the contrary, you have a different opinion, different perspective, this show is for you to speak your mind. And like always, we have our Telegram that you can go ahead and vote our Telegram poll, that the QR code appears there on your screen, and you can vote on the following. As we have the question for all of you, the plant-based diet versus omnivorous diet. Could going vegan save the world? What do you think about this? Do you think it doesn't make a difference? It's more of a preference? It's definitely something to consider. It's not all bad. Or do you think going green has always been the best option, both for yourself and the planet? So there you have it. Go ahead and vote, and we'll be announcing the results during our program.
I mean, I don't think we're going to save the world.
Right.
Let's go to our first video, and we'll be right back with all of you.
Kendrick Farris was the only male weightlifter to represent the United States at the 2012 and 2016 Olympic Games.
Olympic style weightlifting is going from the ground to overhead in one or two explosive movements, the most explosive movements that can be done. When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, they were like, I don't know how you're going to lift that much weight, and you're not going to be eating anything. You're just going to eat grass. Like, how are you going to be strong? I qualified for my third Olympic team. You know what I'm saying? I broke 2 American records. I won the Pan Am Games. I was like, man, like, I think I should have done this a long while ago. Like, why didn't I research this before?
And Kendrick wasn't alone. 5,000 miles away, I found another strength athlete named Patrick Baboumian.
Long bandits!
Patrick is one of the strongest men on the planet, with multiple world records, including the front hold, the keg lift, and the log lift. How could one of the world's strongest men be so powerful, eating only plants? No meat, no milk, no eggs.
Most of the training I do at home because it's
just more practical. Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat? I stopped eating meat in 2005. Up to that time, I was 105 kilo, and now I'm 130 kilos. Also, at the same time, I set like 4 world records. So when I stopped eating meat, I got stronger and bigger. Okay, so I just go under here. Okay, yeah, really take care of your back should really be straight. Get up. At 700 pounds, I could not move the yoke at all. It felt like it was bolted to the ground. And that was just his warm-up weight. It's hard to fathom how strong Patrick really is. It's almost superhuman. When I met Patrick, he was training to break the world record for the heaviest weight ever carried by a human being. To break that record, Patrick would have to carry 1,224 pounds. That's the weight of a horse, a distance of 33 feet. The thing with the yoke is, if you really, really go insane with the weight, when you do a step and all the weight is on one leg, it sometimes feels like your bones could just break. It's probably one of the most terrifying things that we do at strongman events. When Nate Diaz stepped into the cage to face Conor McGregor, the Vegas odds makers had Diaz as the 4-1 underdog.
He caught him again with a right hook. And another left. And again with a combination. Diaz trying to finish with a submission. He got it. That's it. He's got the challenge. Diaz. He's got it. He's done it. Diaz beats Conor McGregor. Oh, my goodness. Nate Diaz. You just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
It's a bitter pill to swallow. It was simply a battle of energy in there, and he got the better of that. So 9 days out from the fight, I started eating 2 steaks a day, and it just came back to bite me on the ass, you know?
This was the greatest upset in UFC history, and it turned out Nate wasn't the only plant-based fighter out there.
Full disclosure, not only did I watch the entire documentary, but I also watched both episodes of the Joe Rogan podcast. The first where he had Chris Kresser on, essentially debunking the documentary, and then the second one where he brought in James Wilkes from the documentary to have a debate with Chris Kresser about those qualms. That's in total about 7 hours of footage. I watched it all. I wanted to make sure I came prepared to answer all of your questions. I want to start off this video by giving you my baseline thoughts on the subject going into watching the documentary so that you can be aware of my cognitive biases. Now, we all have a bias. In fact, when I watched the debate between James and Chris on Rogan's podcast, I saw their cognitive biases showing. And I think if you're more aware of my cognitive biases and where I'm starting, my starting point is, you'll be able to make a better judgment as to whether or not the information I'm presenting you is accurate, or where it's coming from, and why I think what I do think. As a board-certified family medicine doctor who's done a lot of research on the subject, the recommendation I give most often to my patients is a whole foods, primarily plant-focused diet. Doesn't mean vegan. It means getting the majority of your calories from non-animal sources. But it also means it's okay to eat fish, meats, albeit red meat in moderation, and removing to the greatest extent possible processed meats. Now, in this diet, you'll have a lot of fruits, vegetables, healthy fats like avocado, nuts, olive oil, things like that. It's actually quite close to the Mediterranean diet. We have to remember, though, that nutrition advice should be really given on an individual level. So I don't recommend that to all my patients. That's sort of my general advice. And then we make little changes based on that person's body, their health, their conditions, and what they hope to achieve. So while I've never explicitly recommended the vegan diet to somebody, if a patient comes in and wants to, I make sure they do it to the best of their abilities. supplementing, blood testing, and making sure they're planning to get the right macronutrients. Let's get into my thoughts before we jump into the questions. I'm really happy this documentary was made. It's debunking a lot of the myths we've been propagating for such a long period of time. Like, we need to eat a certain amount of meat in order to put on muscle. A lot of these have been proven to be untrue, and I'm happy that this documentary is putting it out there. In fact, I'm happy that we're discussing nutrition. We're actually learning about what constitutes good research, why we're so misled with the certain headlines that we see in media. I love that we're discussing this. I mean, this video, Rogan's video, the documentary itself, all the response videos, this is all healthy debate that we need to do more and more often in nutrition so that we can raise the bar on the type of research we're doing. We can actually make a meaningful impact on the future generations with nutrition research. That being said, the science of the documentary is pretty solid. All the facts are well stated. There's sources for everything that appear on screen. I love that. In fact, in a lot of my videos, I try and put links for further reading from major organizations like WHO, CDC, or if I'm referencing a specific study, I put that study in there as well. The one thing that I will say is I do feel it was made from an activist scientist standpoint. The reason I have to make that a point is they didn't present any counter arguments. And when you're making a documentary, I think it's in the documentary's best interest, if the documentary's interest is truth-seeking, to put all perspectives in there, at least the most common ones, so that we can, as viewers, decide for ourselves what's real, what's not. Now, the experts that they had in the film are credible experts. They're some of the leading experts in the world. But when you only have them speaking about it and no one else from the other side of this conversation, you're leaving a void in there. And it feels like it's been done intentionally from an activist standpoint. Now, I don't want to put blame on anybody or assume why that's being done. I just think that it would have been a more complete picture had we heard from the other side of the conversation about perhaps how much meat is healthy, is no meat healthy, and sort of get a little bit more details on that. Now, James Wilks, who's the star and co-producer of the film, explicitly stated that his goal with the film wasn't to make everyone go vegan. It was to reduce the amount of animal products that they're taking. I love that goal. I think we should all be thinking about that, especially for the environment's sake. But what it feels like in watching this film and speaking to many people about it, my patients included, the vibe that everyone gets from watching it is that eating any amount of animal product is incredibly unhealthy. And we're going to be getting into that as we move forward in this video. But I feel that if your goal was to send one message, but in reality or from a practical standpoint, you're sending a different message, I think something needs to be adjusted. When you're comparing animal food companies to tobacco companies, and we're talking about dangerous words like inflammation, cancer, and we're referencing that only in terms of animal products, you're essentially scaring people off in totality from it, at least in their minds. So we need to be really careful from not only are we presenting all the information factually, but also how is it being understood by the audience?
And we're back with all of you. And if you don't know what movie he's talking about, it is the one called Game Changers. If I'm not mistaken, it should be streaming on Netflix. You can look it up on YouTube. Game Changers, which is a documentary that speaks about the benefits of switching to a plant-based vegan diet. But before we continue, I think I have a phone call. Let's see if we can connect a phone call. Miss Ivana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello.
How you doing, Miss Ivana?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Ivana, I had this question in mind, and I think you fit perfectly in answering it. Do you think, comparing a meat-based diet and a plant-based diet, do you think us as people, we should stick to a regular diet that includes meat, or do you think we should make a switch because it brings more benefits for our health?
I think that's a really good question, and I think that this question particularly is neither black or white. You know, for example, I think the real way to answer that is what you would define as a plant-based diet, because people have different definitions of a plant-based diet. You can go the completely vegan route. From what I've personally, I have tried the completely vegan route, and I've also tried what's called the 80-20% rule, which is 80% of the food you're eating is going to be plant-based, is going to be coming from, you know, a plant source, and 20% can come from animal products or be animal-based, whether it be, you know, chicken, beef, whatever protein source you want. And so depending on who you are and obviously what circumstances you're with and what overall you feel comfortable with, it would be best for you. Now, I do strongly believe that anyone and everyone, if they choose, can switch over to a plant-based diet, but ultimately that's the person's decision. You can make it fit to you. You don't have to go 100% one way or 100% the other. You know, everything in life is about balance. So. Hello?
Ms. Ivana. Hello? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes. You hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Do you think people who make the switch, right, to a vegan diet, to a plant-based diet, do you agree with the following statement that those decisions are usually based on an activist mindset to protect the animals, or do you think it has to do more with your health?
I think that in terms of going vegan, you would see a lot more activists going in there. Particularly what I've noticed is that when you see the difference of being, plant-based, that's where you see a lot more people going into it for health. So I think people tend to like to go into it for health, and then they find out that, oh, it's beneficial that it helps the environment. Oh, it's, beneficial that there's a lot of benefits to going plant-based. Sometimes it's also a matter of financially speaking, sometimes you can save a lot of money going plant-based.
Ms. Ivana, last thing, you said that you had tried one of those diets. I don't know if it was plant-based or vegan. How did it go for you? What did you find? What did you learn? How was that experience?
So for me, I have tried both vegan and plant-based diet, being that, I did occasionally have, protein, animal source proteins. And for me, I personally found that plant-based was a better fit because with plant-based, like I said, you do have that availability where you can eat, chicken, or you can eat dairy, whereas vegans, they tend to stay away from all animal sources of all the sorts, not just eating food. So for me, I prefer the plant-based.
Ivana, thank you so much for speaking your mind. Have a good night, okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care. Mrs. Audrey, I think we have comments also that are coming in, correct?
We have Wesley that says like this: I did strict 18-month-long plant-only based diet, low protein, high carbs, low fat. My cardio workouts were very good, but I looked horrible because everybody was telling me so as well. I lost a lot of fat and muscle. My hair started to really shed, and I was becoming depressed and experienced a lot of mind fog, along with heart PVCs, which I no longer experience now that I'm off the plant-based diet. I learned a lot from this plant-based diet. I've learned to incorporate more plants and good vegetables in my diet now, but a little meat or whey protein now and again is a good idea. We also have Sarah that mentions like this, Pastor, from her experience as well. I went from practically vegetarian to strict carnivore. Acne gone, inflammation, joint pain gone, insulin resistance gone, headaches gone, overweight gone, IBS gone. I have much more energy and I feel pretty good. I think clearly all in 2 months. I won't argue with something I've experienced with my own eyes. So we have two different perspectives. Again, like we said here, everybody is free to choose what they prefer, and that's what it is based off of experience, right? As we see here.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Miss. Let's go to another video, and we'll be right back with all of you.
James is here now alongside Dr. Zoe, and welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here. So as we said there, your background is in mixed martial arts. You were UFC world champion, and filming for the documentary started in 2011 after you had an injury yourself. So what sort of triggered that?
That's right. I tore ligaments in both of my knees, and I thought, well, what can I do that's productive with my time? I had about 6 months where I really couldn't train. So I started digging into the peer-reviewed research on nutrition for optimal recovery and performance. And that's when I came across a study about the Roman gladiators. So scientists unearthed the bones, analyzed it, and they could basically tell that they were eating almost exclusively plants. I thought, well, that can't be true, because you've got to eat meat and animal protein to be strong and healthy.
Right.
So I just started digging into the research and realized that I've really been lied to by the industry through marketing, through industry-funded research, and sort of switched the way that I eat.
Some of our team have watched the documentary and have turned vegan, but you don't like the term vegan. It's plant-based, isn't it? A plant-based diet, not veganism.
The vegan or vegetarian doesn't say what you're eating, it says what you're not eating, right? And so the most important thing from the research that our team has seen, and also is recognized by the world's leading health authorities, the World Health Organization, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the FAO, are all saying that we should be eating predominantly plant-based foods. So it's basically about getting the vast majority of your calories from whole plant foods.
And so just explain, because whenever anybody gives an anecdote about the documentary, they always say, well, there's this bit with these 3 NFL players, and then one of them's given a burrito and the other ones are eating plant-based food, and it has this big effect. So what were you testing for there?
Well, there's a couple. So there was one with that looks at, it gets a little bit complex, called postprandial lipemia, but it basically means fat in the blood after you've eaten. So they spin the blood in the vials.
Why having blood like that?
Yeah, so it actually, we couldn't show everything in a documentary, right? So there's a study been done for the last 22 years showing that when you have that lactescence, that milkiness of the blood, it reduces your endothelial function. The endothelium is the lining of your arteries that produces nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is a vasodilator, opens up your arteries, allows more oxygen, more nutrients to the muscles and organs. And of course, that's going to be better for athletic performance if you don't impair that function. It reduces that by 50% for up to 6 to 8 hours.
One of your other tests is on erections.
That's right. So it's actually the same principle. So the arteries to your penis are some of the smallest in the body. So we thought, well, there's a device that tests erections. Every night, a healthy male has 5 to 6 erections while they're sleeping. It's part of just normal function. And so we asked the lead delegate of urology for the American Medical Association, could we test this? And so that, this research has been done for 22 years, but not on erections with food. And so they tested it, and sure enough, there was 10% better circumference and rigidity of erections, and 300 to 500% duration of erections during the night based on a single meal.
So that's the science. You're the doctor. What do you say?
I mean, I think the first thing I want to get across is that both personally and professionally, I agree with James that, we're better off. We should be eating more plants and less animal products. It'd be better for our health, better for the health of the planet, better for animal welfare. But if we talk about this specific documentary, I have some concerns. I think it's slightly, actually very misleading in lots of ways. And if we give the example of that specific experiment, which it wasn't even really a scientific experiment, and the scientist even says that, what they did is they put some sensors on these 3 men's penises and sent them to bed with a big metal device attached to their leg. And unsurprisingly, on that first night, they had less erections. They probably didn't sleep as well, and their erections weren't as hard. The second night, when they had the plant-based meal, the difference was the first day they had a burrito with meat. The second day they had a burrito with fake meat, so fake chicken or fake pork. And on that night, their erections were stronger and better. Now, common sense tells you that one portion of meat or fake meat probably didn't make a huge difference. Perhaps it was having this contraption fitted to them, which was completely alien. But, in the program, it's very convincing, actually, that eating one portion of meat is going to affect your erectile function. There's no science, there's no data, research to back that up at all.
Well, actually, there is 22 years of research looking at it.
And we are going to continue our topic of the plant-based diet, meat-based diet. And you can continue calling us right now. Let's see if we can come full screen. 877-785-8700 or through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. You can continue calling. You can continue scanning the QR code, send in your vote. You guys can let us know. That way, Thursday night when we return, we're going to be able to continue our program about these types of diets and which one would probably even work best for you. But now, because of a technical difficulty in the beginning, we weren't able to do so. But now we're going to go with Pastor David and the pastors who are now at the altar, and we are going to be praying in favor of you. You who are suffering, you who are going through a tough time right now, don't worry. There's a solution for you.
Now, the prayer of agreement.
Hello, everyone. Unfortunately, tonight we had a little technical problem, but you who are in the faith, it doesn't matter what has been trying to stop you, because with these defects that we see, even in the videos that we make, even the prayers that we make, it shows that the devil does not want us to focus. The devil wants us to divert our focus to the problem. But when we prioritize what we want the most, and in this case right now is the presence that was promised by God himself to be with us, nothing is going to stop us. So don't let anything stop you, regardless of how things get difficult, regardless of how many delays, setbacks you may find in your life. Keep moving forward, because until the 10th of December, Satan will rise himself against you, because he doesn't want you, he doesn't want me, he doesn't want us to have the presence of God with us. He wants us to be distracted with everything else. And this is why now we are going to pray. Pastor Tevon, he's going to say the prayer, and I want you to close your eyes. Even though our prayer is starting a little bit late, but what matters is our faith. Close your eyes and say, my God, nothing is going to divert my focus. There will be no obstacle. There will be no setback. There will be no delay that will separate me from your presence, because we are going to enter a new year. We are going to engage in this journey to the promised land, having the presence of God with us. Close your eyes, please.
My God, your servant Moses was determined that your presence would go with him. And my Father, your people are in the same faith, that they will not enter another year. Their life is not going to continue in the way that it has been, because my God, they're determined to have your presence with them. And for this reason, my God, those who are engaging in these 21 days, because they understand that everything is nothing if they do not have your spirit, if they do not have your presence in their life, and they're seeking, my Father, to be sealed. They're seeking for the promise of your spirit in their life, of your presence in their life. Then, my God, in this moment that this person joins faith together with all your servants that are spread right across Canada, and we that are here on your altar, we ask you, Lord Jesus Christ, that you may fulfill your promise and pour out your spirit upon those who are truly seeking you. My God, fulfill your promise in the life of those who have not yet started to live in your glory, because their life has been debilitated by the problems. My God, manifest your power so that your glory may be seen in the life of your people. And as it was, my God, that Moses requested from you that your people would be set apart from all the peoples of the earth. My God, this is what we want to see in this campaign. Your people have a life that is set apart because your spirit is inside of them. So we ask you now, my Father, that you may visit those who are truly fighting, those, my Father, who are gathering their strength for the day of the 10th to climb your altar, to present to you, my God, the evidence of their belief, to present to you, my God, the evidence of their faith. And in the same way, my God, that you fulfilled your promise in the life of Moses and the people of Israel, we are fighting to see the same taking place in the life of your people, because the same God you were then, you are the same God today. So, my God, let your power, let your promise presence, and let your glory to be seen in the life of your people. My God, as we, your servant, extend our hands to your people, we ask you to strengthen them right now, so that no distraction, nothing that hell will try to raise to divert the focus of your people will impede them, my Father, from completing the mission that they started. My God, honor your people's faith, strengthen them, and let your glory, my God, be fulfilled in their lives. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
And that is the faith. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Keep focused, because when we have the assurance that God's presence will go with us, we are going to be ready to see his glory in our lives. May God bless you all until tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow we are going to have the Lord's Supper in all the Universal Church across Canada and throughout the world. So prepare yourself to be in one of the services, especially at 7 p.m. Bye-bye.
up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be moved. He who keeps me is the Lord, the one who keeps Israel. Will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is my keeper, He's the shade on my right hand. He keeps my soul, He protects me from all evil. He keeps my going out and my coming in. From now on